school and spent much of her time partying with pals. I was one of 2 kids from our school to attend a Harvard summer program in my junior year. It was a wonderful honor and delight. My dad grunted and talked about Amy's dance presentation at supper after I told him. My mom remarked nice but moved on. To avoid missing Amy's recital, my parents couldn't transport me to the airport the night I left for Harvard. I requested a lift from a friend's parents. College applications were terrible too. I practiced for months. Essays, extracurriculars, and SAT prep. I got into several elite institutions and got a big scholarship to my desired school. My folks weren't thrilled when I told them during supper. Dad said that's good, but don't overdo it. College isn't everything. Please don't forget us when you become a big shot, my mom said. My parents were completely supportive when Amy barely graduated high school and opted not to go to college. They complimented her for being herself and defying society. They bought her a car for graduation, unlike me. I was emotionally exhausted by this favoritism. I was depressed and anxious in my teens and 20s. I saw a therapist in college and realized my parents' behavior wasn't my fault. My self-esteem took years to create, but I managed to build a wonderful life despite my family's lack of support. I graduated college with honors, got a decent financial career, and bought my own house at 27. Despite my parents' disapproval, I'm pleased of my accomplishments. The present drama begins here. Recent death of my dad's grandfather. He left a large estate after building a fortune in business. He left his assets evenly to his children, my dad and his siblings and grandkids, myself, Amy, and our cousins. My inherited half was around $500,000. It would have helped me pay off student bills, invest in my future, and even establish a business. I appreciated this unexpected fortune and its potential. My parents were noticeably distressed when the will was read. They took me aside afterward and said it was unfair because I got an equal share. They thought Amy needed the money more because she struggled. She lives in our parents' basement and works part-time at a coffee shop. I attempted to be cool despite shock. I stated that grandfather made this decision and they couldn't undo it. They insisted I do the right thing and compensate Amy. They got angry and guilt-tripped me for being selfish and ungrateful when I declined. My dad listed every time they helped me. He highlighted paying for my medically necessary braces, purchasing me the bare minimum school supplies, and allowing me live at home during college, even though I worked part-time. He ignored the car they bought Amy, the many shopping sprees, and their 25-year-old support. The scenario grew swiftly. Father, as will executor, took matters into his own hands. He decided to misinterpret Grandpa's wishes and give Amy my entire portion in addition to her inheritance. He said Grandpa would have liked this if he knew our circumstances. Devastated. This was illegal and sad reminder of my parents' low regard for me. I tried to persuade them that Grandpa had always treated his grandchildren equally and knew our predicament. My mom accused me of demeaning the deceased by claiming grandfather would have wanted anything other than what my dad was proposing. I mentioned Grandpa encouraging my academic and career goals, but my parents rejected them as misconceptions. They said Grandpa quietly worried about Amy's future and wanted to protect her. There was no response to my question about why he hadn't written the will that way. Amy appeared uneasy, didn't criticize our parents. When I tried to chat privately, she shrugged and said, "Mom and Dad know best." We knew she wouldn't help. I asked my paternal granny, Grandpa's widow, for guidance after feeling hurt and misled. Hearing what was occurring enraged her. She told me Grandpa never intended this, and that my parents had no authority to amend the will. Grandma's information illuminated the problem. I believe my parents asked Grandpa to leave Amy everything in his will a few years ago. Grandpa disagreed, saying he wanted to treat his grandchildren equally. He even included in his will that anyone who disputed the equal distribution would lose their part. With this information, I approached my parents. They were astonished when Grandma told me about their will influencing attempt. My dad claimed they were protecting Amy's future, but I could tell they were guilty. Grandma acted quickly. She notified her lawyer and will executors. She also contacted my dad's siblings, who were as outraged by his plans. The will was performed as written after they stopped my dad's plot. My parents capitulated, but they're upset with me. They claimed I incited family animosity. Said I should have handled this myself instead of outsourcing. My mother wept at my betrayal and family breakup. I told my dad I never expected anything from them when he threatened to cut me out of their will. They're threatening to cut me off if I accept their money. My dad even said I'm not welcome in their home if I collect the inheritance. In a particularly cruel twist, my mom argued that accepting the money proves I never loved them and was only profiting from their deaths. The extended family disagrees. I have supportive cousins who recognize the long-standing partiality and praise me for standing up for myself. Some argue I should have given in to keep the peace since family is more important than money. My dad's brothers support me, but this has strained relations with my parents. Amy is trapped in the melee. She privately informed me she didn't ask for this and feels bad, but she won't fight our parents. Not completely her fault. She's been raised to depend on and please them. Part of me wishes she would help me once. This incident rekindled past hurt and hatred. I remember being ignored in favor of Amy. The birthday parties and school festivities my parents missed. Unrecognized accomplishments. This tragedy seems to culminate a lifetime of unfairness. I'm determined to inherit as grandfather wanted. However, the issue has greatly divided the family. My parents rarely talk to me and family gatherings are tense. I skipped our monthly family meal for the first time last week because I couldn't handle the cold shoulders and accusatory looks. Small part of me feels empowered. For the first time, I'm fighting my parents' mistreatment. I'm establishing my worth and refuse to be ignored. Both terrible and freeing. I think I'm correct, but family drama is draining me. Anxiety episodes have returned, the first since college. I'm considering treatment again to manage this stress. Am I a jerk for taking my inheritance and resisting my parents? Should I have given Amy the money to settle things? I'm sick of being blamed for everything, but I'm also afraid of losing my family. I welcome any advice or opinion. Update. Many things have happened since my last post 6 months ago. I appreciate everyone's help and advice. I was strengthened by it during a difficult moment. Let me start with legal issues. As several of you suggested, I consulted my own lawyer. He acknowledged that my dad's attempt was illegal and that I was entitled to my inheritance. He helped me prepare for legal action and document everything. Thankfully, that didn't happen. My grandma, her lawyer, and my dad's brothers resolved matters without going to court. I received my complete inheritance as stipulated in the will. My dad was removed as executor for manipulating the will. The process was unpleasant and took weeks. There were angry meetings, phone calls, and even lawsuit threats from my parents. They had to back down since the law was clear. However, familial fallout is enormous and ongoing. My parents initially stuck to it. They called me greedy and indifferent to my sister. They even tried to turn other family members against me by claiming I convinced Grandpa to leave me money. Luckily, most of the family saw through their trickery. One nasty episode occurred at a family gathering a month after the will was resolved. My folks arrived uninvited. They raised a ruckus because my aunt hosted without inviting them. My dad yelled that I stole from Amy and turned Granny against them. My mom dumped an old photo album at my feet, saying I destroyed all these happy memories. It was awkward and painful, and various relatives had to calm the situation and beg my parents to leave. Bless her heart, my granny was my strongest supporter. She told me my grandfather was proud of my successes and wanted to ensure all his grandchildren had equal chances. She stated that grandfather kept a scrapbook of my accomplishments, academic award, newspaper clippings, college acceptance letters, and the school play that my parents were late to. This revelation was touching and sad. Grandma also cleared the air with extended family. She held a family gathering without my parents to explain their bias, including events I forgot or never knew about. Knowing someone finally acknowledged my years of unfairness was reassuring, but it also opened old hurts. My sister Amy found her voice after all this. After some introspection and several lengthy meetings with our grandma, she quietly apologized for not defending me before. She said she thought our parents' favoritism was inappropriate but was hesitant to dispute it. We had a long, emotional conversation about our childhood and its effects. Amy said that being the favorite child wasn't so great. She was always pressured to meet our parents' standards and never learnt to stand alone. She told stories of times she wanted to accomplish things on her own, but our parents would do everything for her, preventing her from growing and learning from her failures. This conversation changed our friendship. Our parents' partiality ruined our sibling bond, so we rebuilt it. We've been having coffee together to speak and support one another through this family upheaval. Amy stunned everyone by declaring she would spend her inheritance for college. She stated seeing me fight for myself emboldened her to take charge. She began at a local community college and plans to transfer to a 4-year university once she decides what to study. Mom and Dad were startled. Perhaps they recognized their babying had hurt Amy. My parents' reactions have been divided and developing. They were initially furious with us. They accused me of turning Amy against them and attempted to get her to quit college to help the family. After that failed, they switched strategies. After numerous long conversations with my grandma and seeing Amy's great developments, my mom realized their behavior was destructive. She started treatment to work on her concerns, taking hesitant steps toward reconciliation. She apologized to me for being unfair and asked for a chance to make things right. I'm cautiously optimistic and setting boundaries as it's slow. Sadly, my dad has been reluctant to confess guilt. He remains angry and feels victimized. He seldom speaks to me and is chilly to Amy since she went to college. He has tried to persuade us by offering to forgive us if we admit our mistakes or threatening to sell our childhood home if we don't change. We're firm, but seeing him push away both his children is difficult. Extended families have changed dramatically. I've grown closer to my granny and dad's siblings, who are so supportive. For years, my aunts and uncles have told me about their struggles with my dad's challenging conduct, making me feel less alone. I've also grown closer to my cousins who supported me. We started a monthly cousin supper to catch up without the older generation's drama. I've used my inheritance well. Paying off my college loans gave me amazing financial freedom. My investing portfolio is broad, assisted by a financial counselor. I've saved for a future business. I'm considering building a community center with cheap mental health and financial literacy services. The most meaningful use of the money for me has been funding therapy for myself and offering it to Amy. We're both healing from childhood and setting good boundaries with our parents, a lengthy procedure. But I feel like I'm comprehending and overcoming long-term favoritism and emotional mistreatment. This ordeal has brought unforeseen good adjustments to my life. I've learned to set limits and defend myself. Despite the hard days, I know I did the right thing. I'm proud I didn't cave to pressure and guilt. The change in my job aspirations was shocking. After dealing with all this family drama and going to therapy, I realized how much I want to help others with similar family dynamics. I'm thinking about studying family therapy for adult children of emotionally immature parents. I also mentor youngsters from challenging families at a nearby youth facility. It's great to give kids the support and encouragement I wish I had. I'm considering setting up a scholarship foundation for comparable youngsters with some of my inheritance. Amy and I are getting along better. A monthly siblings' day where we do something fun together has become a tradition. Last month's hike and lunch were the most relaxing and connected we've felt since childhood. We're steadily repairing our friendship sans our parents' influence. Things remain complex. My mom is trying to fix our connection. She attends therapy regularly and has begun to acknowledge her favoritism's hurt. In a few one-on-one lunches, we've had honest, challenging conversations about our history and how to move ahead. Though imperfect, it's progress. My dad resists change. He denies wrongdoing. And that Amy and I are unappreciative. Due of his refusal to be with me, he's missed countless family functions. I'm starting to realize that I can't change his reactions or perspective, even when it hurts. Amy and I rely on Grandma. She keeps talking about our grandfather and how proud he would be of us for standing up for ourselves. She's wonderful at mediating family disputes, constantly fighting for fairness and understanding. My experience has taught me the genuine meaning of family. I've learned that chosen families can be more supportive than birth families. I grew closer to my supportive aunts, uncles, and cousins. I've even made close pals who have supported me through this. I've also learned about self-care and boundaries. Prioritizing my health no longer makes me feel guilty. I'm getting better at rejecting mental health harming circumstances. I've even started attempting new hobbies and interests I put off because I was so focused on pleasing my parents. To those in similar situations, don't let anyone make you feel guilty about getting what's yours. Despite turmoil, it's okay to stick up for oneself. Family dynamics are tricky, but you deserve respect and justice. Healing and achieving your dream life are never too late. Get therapy if needed. Set boundaries and surround yourself with helpful people. Your worth is based on who you are, not how your family treats you. Thank you again for your guidance and assistance. It meant more than you realize in a tough time. Though the path has been difficult, I'm optimistic and confident about the future as I haven't been in years. Looking forward to this new phase in my life. I'm determined to end favoritism and improve my future family's relationships.